One administrative mistake can have serious consequences for a person's life. For Mrs. J and her family, it cost them their home. Mrs. J lived in London. Her neighbour was being investigated for fraud by Jobcentre Plus and the local council. When Mrs. J was asked to give a witness statement to assist the investigation, she agreed on the understanding that her identity would be kept confidential. However, Jobcentre Plus accidentally disclosed Mrs. J's identity to her neighbour. After this, Mrs. J was threatened and had stones thrown at her windows. She was followed and her children were bullied at school. They had to be moved to a new school much further away. Mrs. J's mental health declined and she became reluctant to leave her house. She had to call the police on a number of occasions.
It was like living in fear, hell, and anxiety. I was frightened for my own safety and for that of my children. As a result of Jobcentre Plus sharing my details, I felt ashamed and angry about having signed the witness statement and decided I would never do it again.
When Mrs. J complained to Jobcentre Plus about what had happened, they acknowledged their mistake, apologised and paid her £750 in compensation. But they told her they were not responsible for her neighbour's actions. Mrs. J saw no option but to move home, but she couldn't because she was a council tenant and she didn't meet the criteria for a transfer. When she approached us about her complaint, she told us she felt like her life was on hold. As a result of our investigation into Mrs. J's complaint, Jobcentre Plus agreed to work with the council to move Mrs. J and her family to a new home so that they could lead normal lives again. They also agreed to pay Mrs. J's relocation costs and £6,000 in compensation.
I'm very thankful to the Ombudsman's team for making this happen. I'm extremely pleased that I finally have the ability to get out of the situation. They helped me move on and continue a normal life with my family.
We're here to help. Our service is free to everyone. For more information on what we do and how we can help, please get in touch.